Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here, and I've had the Samsung Galaxy Note 5 for about 5 months now, and I still haven't done a full review. I've talked about it in other videos. I have a ton of notes down. I just haven't put together a review video. So now it's time. I'm not just going to talk about the standard review things, also talk about usage over time and other people's experiences as well. So let's get into the review. The Galaxy Note 5 took some design features from the Galaxy S6, however, not the exact same design. It does not include a removable battery or expandable micro SD card, which was on the Note 4. The two sides are curved in from the back, which is pretty inverted from the Galaxy S6 Edge and the Edge Plus. However, it makes it much easier to actually pick up off of the table just because there's a little gap there between the sides and the bottom. One thing I do want to point out at the top of that lens is that metal ring has a little bit of a chip in it up at the top, which is probably a good thing because it's made to actually protect the lens and it's doing its job. I'm not exactly sure how that chip got there. In terms of design, the S Pen eject mechanism has changed where you have to press in and it pops out and you can go ahead and pull it out. However, I do want to make note that sometimes when it's in my pocket, I've noticed when I pull the Note 5 out of my pocket, it has been ejected just like this. It's never been fully out of the S Pen set. You actually do have to put a little force to actually pull it out once it hits that point. But I have noticed that occasionally in my pocket it does get pressed, so it will stick out just a little bit. On the front of the device, you'll notice you have capacitive buttons back in recent apps. And then, of course, you have a physical home button, which acts as a fingerprint scanner. I'll get to that in a second. And then, of course, up at the top, you do have that earpiece and then a front-facing camera along with some sensors. And speaking of sensors, up at the top, there's no IR blaster in the Note 5, which I find unfortunate. I wish they would have continued with that trend of including them in the Note series. Another great design feature of the Note 5 is the wireless charging that is built in, and it's fast wireless charging, actually, just about as fast as if you were to plug it into your quick charge. Now, I did find myself using wireless charging a lot more than I thought I would. You'll see I have a phone salesman charger that does actually work with quick charge wireless charging, so all I really have to do is drop the device on there. It has a really neat charging animation, and then it starts charging your device, and it's very quick. The Note 5 has a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, and when it comes to battery life, here's a couple screenshots that I took. This is probably the worst screen on time that I got, the 3 hours and 56 minutes. You'll see I got 4 hours and 9 minutes screen on time, and then I also got about 4 hours and 26 minutes. I get about an average of 4 hours and 15 minutes screen on time. It's very consistent. It works really well. Highly recommended for its battery life. Now, I want to talk about using that fingerprint scanner right here. Of course, it's very convenient that you can turn the display on and then leave your finger on the sensor to unlock the device. However, after using devices such as the Nexus 6P, the iPhone 6S, the Note 5's fingerprint scanner seems a little bit slower than those two and a little bit less accurate. I find myself having to put it on the home sensor in a very specific way for it to actually activate and sense, especially coming right out of my pocket. It's a little difficult to find the right sweet spot to unlock the device. Now, of course, it's a personal preference if you prefer the capacitive and physical home buttons that the Note 5 has versus on-screen buttons. However, the capacitive buttons do act as another option. For example, if I go to recent apps, go to an app, and I press and hold the back button, it acts as a menu button. So they did not specifically get rid of that. You just have to press and hold. And then if you press and hold the recent apps, it's going to jump into your multi-window, which, of course, is a nice functionality for multitasking, and you can obviously switch between apps very quickly. It runs very well. The processor is very quick, very smooth with these options. And also there's another nice little feature where you can drag from the corner of an app and resize it to your specific liking. It's just another multitasking function. And then, of course, with it open, you can move it around the screen. You can actually minimize it as well, and it minimizes into these bubbles, which I found myself using the most with multiple apps open as once. And I believe it works with Chrome. Let me try it out. Yep, it does. So you'll see if I want to go ahead and minimize from this bubble as well, I can do that. And of course, it's a lot better too when using the S Pen. Opening up the S Pen brings Air Command, where you have a bunch of different options. The ones I find myself using the most is just mostly screen write. If I tap on screen write, it's going to take a screenshot, and then you can just physically draw on whatever is on that display. I find myself using that easily the most if I just see something, want to point it out, circle it, send it off in an email. It's very easy, especially because it has specific share button straight there, or I can save it to my gallery. Of course, if I press the home button, I can go back home, and then I want to go back into that specific app. It brings it up. I can move it around. Also, one thing to note is with the S Pen right here, this Air Command you cannot open with your finger. So it just acts as a button there that can only be pressed with my S Pen. Now, the main thing I actually find myself using the S Pen for the most is when my display is off, and I unlock and I take out the S Pen, and it's going to open up a screen write option that's very dim, as you can see, but I can just write a quick number. That is kind of what I find myself using the most, writing numbers, just some quick notes, thoughts in my head. I hit save real quick, and it goes away. And of course, if I need to unlock my phone, I could just use my fingerprint scanner, and it unlocks it. The Galaxy Note 5 has a gorgeous 5.7-inch 1440p Super AMOLED display. It looks amazing, whether you're watching movies, playing games, anything like that, the colors look great. However, of course, with it being a 5.7-inch display, form factor is a little bit large, so I do recommend it for people with a little bit larger hands. Me personally, I prefer it to be a little bit smaller. However, I do prefer the increased battery life with the larger form factor. Right away, I'm going to tell you guys it's one of my favorite cameras out there. It opens so quickly, and there's multiple ways to open it, whether it's from the lock screen. You can also double tap the home button, which I'm actually considering turning off, because I do find myself accidentally pressing it twice sometimes and opening up the camera application when I don't want it to actually open. Now, also, while in the camera application, shutter speed, focusing is very quick. It's just an overall amazing camera, and it takes some amazing pictures. When it comes to video recording, you can shoot in 1080p 60 frames a second, also in 4K as well if you'd like to. And of course, all you have to do is press that record button right there. Front-facing camera is pretty good. It does actually have a beauty mode where when you take a selfie, it makes yourself look better. It smooths out your wrinkles, all that stuff. There's, of course, various modes as well, including a pro mode for those of you looking for it, or you can change your ISO, aperture, white balance, all of that stuff right on the fly. It's very simple, very easy, and of course, now necessary in any flagship device. Let's move on to software and performance. When it comes to performance, it has an Exynos 7420 processor, which flies. It's a very powerful processor. It's also coupled with 4 gigabytes of RAM, which would seem like a lot normally. I'll get to that in a second. However, like I said, performance, multitasking, whether you use multi-window, if you're doing a lot of high-end gaming, it handles it just fine. There are a couple stutters very seldomly, but they do happen, and I believe they're related to TouchWiz, the skin over Android. Now, as I said, 4 gigabytes of RAM may seem like a lot. However, the RAM management with the software with TouchWiz is not good. They really need to fix it. When you have a bunch of apps running, not even a bunch, just some apps running all at the same time, it will start to kill apps in the background that should not be being killed. And when it comes to software, as I said, it does run Android, and unfortunately, it has not been updated to Marshmallow yet. I will do a video when it does get Marshmallow, so be sure to subscribe to me so you're notified of that. But right now, it's on 5.1.1 Lollipop. A little bit upsetting considering this is their flagship device at the moment and it hasn't been updated. However, like I said, they do have TouchWiz skin over it. And it does look a little bit different than it did out of the box because there's a theme engine, which is a very good thing. There's a lot of themes in the theme store. You'll see I have a material dark, so it kind of looks similar to stock. Of course, it is not stock. There are a lot of TouchWiz overlay features. Here's the recent apps screen. There's a close all button, which is a nice addition. There are some things that I do like. Pulling down the status bar, you don't need to pull it down twice to get to these shortcuts, which I generally like. I actually like being able to have the shortcuts here along with my notifications down below and not having to use 2 fingers to swipe down or twice to swipe down to get to them. Here's the stock launcher as well. The stock launcher has a weird bug, at least in the app drawer. It's very infuriating. When you install an app from the Play Store, you'll see I installed Sheets recently. I did have alphabetical order. However, if you install a new app, it just gets rid of that alphabetical order. And every time that you actually go back into your app drawer, you have to press A to Z to resort them alphabetically. It's a little annoying and not sure why it has that feature. Pressing and holding on the home button, of course, you have your widgets, your wallpapers, themes goes into that themes option, and then a nice screen grid option where you can have 5x5 instead of 4x4 or 4x5 if you want that. TouchWiz in general has been slimmed down in this version. However, it's not where it needs to be just yet. It does still have motion and gestures. The one I use the most is direct call. If I'm in a messaging thread or something, I just put my phone up to my face and it'll start calling them. I don't really use palm swipe to capture. It's kind of where you put the palm across your phone and it's going to actually take a screenshot. It's a little hard with this camera equipment in front of me. But as I said, RAM management is definitely a problem, and I believe it's TouchWiz related. Hopefully they can fix it on Marshmallow. I'll keep you guys updated, as I mentioned. But TouchWiz is getting there. It still needs some overall improvements, though. And of course, not signature to the Note 5, it does have Samsung Pay, which is awesome. It's really great going up to any terminal and paying with your device. I do use it. I've used it on my S6, actually. I haven't used it on my Note 5 yet. However, it is there, and I've used it all the time. Now, of course, I'm not the only one that's had the Note 5 for a while, so I went on social media, asked some other people that have had this device for a while how they are liking it. If you don't follow me on social media, feel free to. I'll link to them in the description. But someone like at Schnitzengrin says, I love it. Amazing camera, good battery life, perfect size. I don't even use this stylus much. JMR says it's great. Wish my hands were a bit bigger in order to use one-handed more comfortably. James CL says, had it since launch day, not a single hiccup, getting 6 hours screen on time consistently on heavy use. Honestly, overall, most people have been happy with it. Bob Cook has said, honestly was bummed out about no micro SD card, no removable battery, but the quick charge technology has impressed me. As I said, it impressed me as well. He just has to upload his pics and stuff to Dropbox or hardwire to his desktop, which is where he wants them. It's a workhorse. So he does like it overall. Of course, obviously it'd be nice to have a micro SD card slot just for those of you that do want it. And finally, Drew Lambert's had it for about 2 to 3 months, thinks it's a very solid daily driver. I'll put up his, mini review right up next to me. But as you can see, I'm not the only one that thinks this device is a great device. Samsung did a very, very good job with it, in my opinion. TouchWiz, not so much, needs some work. Hopefully Marshmallow fixes it. I'm kind of holding out for it, but Marshmallow is taking a bit of a long time, which makes Nexus devices more appealing, but we'll see. So overall, that is my experience and my thoughts on the Note 5 after about 5 months. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. A little bit different than my normal ones, but hopefully it was informative and kind of got you thinking about if you still want to purchase this device. And that's about it. So please subscribe to my channel. Click the thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. You can follow me on social media. More questions like this coming very soon. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.